Okay, hello class. Okay, I'm Dr. Chu here, and today I'm going to talk to you about Krashen's monitor model. Alright, so here we have a picture of Krashen. Okay, and over here we have a pentagon. Alright, that's because he has introduced 5 hypotheses, which is called monitor model. Alright, so the first hypothesis, he distinguished between acquisition and learning. So it's acquisition versus learning. Monitor hypothesis, natural order hypothesis, input hypothesis, and affective filter hypothesis. Okay, so for the first hypothesis, acquisition versus learning. Okay, for him, Krashen feels that acquisition is implicit, it's subconscious. Okay, you may not know what you are learning, but you are actually learning. And it's subconscious, you don't know that you are learning as well. So it usually happens to small children who are at home. Okay, they are actually subconsciously learning from their parents, but they don't know that they are. Okay, whereas in a learning context, like in a classroom, is explicit and the learners are conscious that they are learning. Okay, so acquisition is usually in informal situations, like I've just said. It could be at home, or it could be at the playground, or somewhere else. But for learning, it's usually more restricted. It's usually in a formal situations, like in a classroom settings. For now, after the COVID pandemic, the situation is more novel. We now have classroom settings online, or it could be at Zoom, Microsoft Teams. More virtual now, more virtual settings now. All right. For acquisition, usually the learners have the feel of the grammar. They uses the grammatical feel. If you ask them, hey, why is this wrong? The answer could be, I don't know, I just feel it. I just feel so. All right. Whereas if you have learned it, then you would be aware and you would know about the grammatical rules. Okay. Acquisition, it usually involves LAD. It's language acquisition device. Usually the language acquisition device, or LAD, which is stored in your brain, will help you to acquire language. And based on the critical period hypothesis, LAD, it actually functions well before puberty. All right, so before puberty, it's believed that you have the ability to acquire language in a better way. All right, whereas for learning, we usually learn from something simple to complex. So there's an order from simple to complex. The second hypothesis, Krashen talked about monitor hypothesis. Building on the definition of acquisition and learning. Acquisition, what you have acquired will help you to initiate utterance, will help you to say something. Whereas what you have learned, will help you to monitor your language output, or what you have produced. So acquisition center would produce language. The language that you have learned, will allow you to monitor your output. If the output matches, usually that's not a problem. Whereas if the language produced is not correct, then the monitoring of the learning system, will help correct the acquisition center. Right? So in other words, monitor hypothesis, it says that what you have learned functions to monitor and edit what you have produced. And the third one, before we move on to the third one, okay, there are 3 conditions to use the monitor. Okay. All right. The first one, the acquirer or learner must know the rule. Okay. You have to learn the rule. Okay. And you must be focused on the correctness or form. And thirdly, okay, you must have time to use the monitor. Okay. Yeah. However, Krashen has given us some warnings. If you overuse the monitor, it will have an impact on your fluency. Whereas if you underuse your monitor, then your accuracy suffers. Okay, so the best is to be an optimal user. Okay, you have to balance between fluency and accuracy. Okay, Krashen's third hypothesis is natural order hypothesis. Okay, usually, okay, for language development, there are stages. Okay, there are predictable stages, and so Krashen believes that there is a natural order that we have to follow. Okay, we acquire the rules of language in a predictable order. Okay, all right. The fourth hypothesis is related to input, but before we go on to the input hypothesis, all right, we'll explain further about input. So, what's input? Okay, input refers to oral or written language that a learner receives. Okay, how and in what ways, okay, does input promote language acquisition or language learning? Okay, so we can't deny that input is crucial. All right, and we need to have sufficient input. Okay, it should be a quality input and can be understood. Okay, so language improves when there's comprehensible input. Okay, comprehensible input means input that we could understand. Okay, and Krashen suggested level I+1, which is one step beyond a learner's current stage. Okay, you should have something which is slightly harder, okay, so that you can learn. Okay, so that means most importantly, the input needs to be comprehensible. So how do parents or teachers or more competent speakers modify their speech so that the input becomes comprehensible? Okay, so modified input can come in as different terms. We have child-directed speech. When a mother speaks to a child, it's different. Okay, foreigner talk. All right. When a native speaker is talking to a foreigner, he or she wants to be understood, and there are some strategies to make their input more comprehensible to the foreigner. And another one is teacher talk. All right, when the teacher talks to the students, they will also modify their input so that the input becomes comprehensible to the students. All right, so some of the ways include slower rates of delivery. Okay, it's slower. Higher pitch. This usually applies to mother most often, or especially when you're talking to a child. Okay, they're so cute, aren't they? Right? Higher pitch, it shows excitement. When a teacher goes into a class as well, okay, it's higher pitch. Hi, right? Okay, more varied intonation. You don't want to make yourself dull, so you have more varied intonation. The sentences are shorter, simpler. Okay, and we stress on the keywords like, could you give me the key? Key, could you give me the key? All right, so that, hey, that's the keyword. All right, you pay attention to what's louder and more salient. All right, the last one here is frequent repetition. You want to repeat it until they understand, right? Okay, don't forget paraphrasing as well. So if I say, do you have the key? When the listener, okay, the one who listens to you couldn't understand, perhaps you would change your sentence. The key, and perhaps you add a bit of explanation about the key. All right. Okay. Well, something extra here that I would like to share with you. In order for input to benefit the language learning process, okay, it also has to meet the following requirements. Okay, this is based on Billy Renandia. Okay, input needs to be comprehensible. It also needs to be abundantly and readily available. So it's always a good idea to if you're in a physical classroom, to have the information around the class, so that it's always there. When a student is bored, then could look at the information board or the notice board and learn something. Okay. All right. The same could be done for your home too, right? Whenever you have learned something, you're not very good at it yet, post it around the walls of your house so that you could always revise it. Okay, because you also need to frequently encounter the language. Okay, and it also needs to contain language features that are slightly beyond the learner's current level. Okay, this is like I+1, Krashen's idea. Okay, also we need to have language features that engage learners' attention. Okay. Meaningful and interesting are also very important. When you learn a language, you want to learn it in a meaningful way, interesting way, so that it's fun, right? Okay, so this is me and Dr. Billy Renania. Okay, I attended his talk, which was about extensive reading and listening. I felt that it's relevant here when we talk about Krashen's input hypothesis. All right, because extensive exposure to comprehensible input through reading or listening is crucial. Okay, Krashen in 2004 even suggested that comprehensible input is the only way to acquire a second language. Do you agree? Well, his view may be a bit too strong. There are many researchers who tend to disagree because besides input, you also have output, and also we can't deny the important role that interaction plays to language learning. Okay. This is a quote from Nato in 1982. Okay, she feels that the best way to improve one's knowledge of a foreign language is to go and live among its speakers. And the next best way is to read extensively in it. Well, do you agree with this? Well, we can't deny reading is beneficial. It's important to read. Okay, but what kinds of text should we expose ourselves to? Okay, if you look at the picture on the left here, okay, this is a text which we understand 75% of it. Okay, take a moment to have a look at it. Do you understand what it's trying to say? Is it good? Is it a good text for you to be exposed to? All right. If you have a good look at this, then you can look at this one, the one on the right. Okay, so more words are revealed here. Okay, over here, then you know about 85% of the text. Is it more comprehensible to you now? Is it a better choice? Okay, so these slides are taken during Dr. Charles Brown's presentation. Okay, during ICTA conference, it was last year. Okay, and okay, this is what's recommended. Okay, if you know 95% of the text, Okay, this is actually something good for you to read. Okay, for you to read extensively. Okay, according to Dr. Charles Brown, 90% okay is minimum to read or listen and be able to guess from context. So when you are exposing yourself to comprehensible input, the input ideally should be at least, you should be able to understand at least 90% of it. Okay, 90 to 95% of it would be the best. Okay, because if you know 100% of it, then you don't have anything else to learn, right? So yeah, so 90% to 95% is the best. Okay, something else which is interesting. All right, in English language, there are 600,000 words. Okay, and adult native speakers would know about 30,000 words. Okay, but a learner only needs to know about 2,800 high-frequency words to understand 92% of average daily speech, newspaper, book, magazine, TV show, or movie. Okay, basically what you need. So it's important to expose yourself to or to learn high-frequency words so that you could understand, okay, about 92% of the language that's surrounding you. Okay, right. To know more about these high-frequency words, you could go to Dr. Charles Brown's new general service list. Okay, could be found here in this website. And the last hypothesis from Krashen, okay, is affective filter hypothesis. All right. So affective filter hypothesis, okay, all right, that's actually a quote that I would start with from Krashen. Okay, a mental block caused by affective factors prevents input from reaching the language acquisition device. So if you are stressed, if you have a lot of negative emotion, that will actually prevent input from entering your brain. Okay. Yes. Okay, stress, anxiety, and other negative affective factors interfere with acquisition or learning. Okay. Input may not be processed if the affective filter is up. So the affective filter is like a block that's hindering you from accepting something. All right. So if the affective filter is lowered, that means you don't have any block in front of you. Okay, then the input could be processed easily. Okay, so this is a model. All right. So when you are learning a language, you have the comprehensible input. Okay, if there's no filter, that's good. Then the input could successfully enter your brain, the language acquisition device in your brain. Okay, then you acquired that knowledge. When you acquire that knowledge, then you could produce the output. So what you have learned, okay, will help you to monitor the output. Okay, all right. So I hope you understand the 5 hypotheses that I've just explained here, and you still feel happy. You don't feel stressed. Okay. Well, I have some opinions. I would like to have your opinions here. Okay, based on your experience, what do you think of Krashen's 5 hypotheses and the monitor model? Is it helpful? Do you find it helpful, useful? What do you see as the problems of Krashen's hypothesis, or what are the limitations? Okay, provide explanation and examples of how filter can be increased or decreased in language learning. Yeah, for example, would games help to make it interesting or to make you feel less nervous? Or sometimes, yeah, it could be the other way around. Yeah, or could your instructors style, all right, lower or actually, okay, lower your filter? How would it be? Okay, all right. So these are some references that you could refer to as well. SC Krashen's website and also TESOL class website about applying SLA theories. Okay, well, go back to the previous slide. I hope you could share with me your opinions in the comments below. Thank you.